Hey guys, welcome back to DCS World. I'm Spudknocker, as always, and today we're going to take a look at the AGM-65 Foxtrot on the F-18C Hornet. My old video on employing IRMAVs in the F-18C Hornet is now obsolete due to a number of changes and updates to the Mavericks in the Hornet, and I told you guys I'd bring you a new video, and here it is. I don't want anyone to get confused or potentially get confusing information by having an obsolete video out there. So I'm also making this video on the Caucasus map to visually distinguish this video from the other video, which was filmed on the Persian Gulf map, as a way to make sure you guys are in the right place. So the biggest change is ED has decided to eliminate the Delta and Gulf version of the AGM-65 from the simulation of the F-18C Hornet here in DCS World. And that is due to a lack of documentation and evidence that suggests the Gulf variant of the Maverick was never used by the US Navy or US Marine Corps on their Charlie Hornets. Now, on the forums and in other places, there was some conjecture and some evidence that the Kuwaitis used the Gulf version of the Maverick on their Charlie Hornets. However, this required the use of some US Air Force technology and personnel in order to get that to work. I believe there was also some conjecture that they had the triple launchers that you see on the A-10s able to be fitted to their Charlie Hornets. However, ED's main focus has and will always be on Marine Corps and Navy Hornets. And so we're going to have to live with the fact that we are not going to have any other types of Mavericks on the Hornet, and that is really no big deal. For a game like DCS World, there's really not much of a difference anyway. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and hop in the cockpit and we'll get started. Now, one of the reasons we're here on a rather lousy weather day is the IR variant of the Maverick, being the Foxtrot that we have on our wings here, is a really good weapon to be using in IFR conditions. Because it's IR, it can see through the moisture in the air, it can see through the rain, the fog, the clouds, things like that, to be able to see your targets. Whereas the Echo version of the Maverick needs that laser designation, and that laser designation and spot can be degraded by moisture in the air, rain, fog, clouds, all these kinds of things. So it is a VFR weapon only. So we'll go ahead and get started here. I like to have my EW page on my right hand DDI when I'm employing Mavericks, and this is simply because it's a head down in the cockpit weapon, and so if there's threats engaging you, like say a Shilka locks onto you as you're rolling in, or an SA-8 or some other kind of air defense system, you'll be able to be notified right away, as well as obviously the auditory cues as well. So we'll go over to our stores page, and we've got our wing form here, and we can see that we've got Mavericks on all four wings, wing stations that is. So we'll go into air to ground mode, and if we select our Mavericks, that selects them. See, there's no longer a standby underneath them. A big change you'll notice here is we no longer have to cool our Mavericks on an air start like on this mission. However, at the end of the video, I'll go ahead and do a takeoff and show you guys how to cool down your Mavericks if you have weight on wheels at the beginning of your mission. So we'll go ahead and click on this guy again, and we're brought to the Maverick format page. And we can see the sensor view from the Maverick, and we can see that there's a couple different fusing options here. Instantaneous is going to work for 99% of your targets here in DCS World. We have a ship version which expands the crosshairs in order to capture a ship in there, as well as telling the software of the missile to go ahead and hit the waterline of a ship. We're not going after ships today. We've got a couple tanks and a helicopter set up on the little abandoned airfield here at Cavaletti. At this point, I'm sure it's safe to say that the little abandoned airstrip at Cavaletti has probably been hit by more ordnance than North Vietnam, South Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia combined. So before we go ahead and roll in, one thing that I like to do with my Mavericks is I like to make sure they're all FOV zoomed in. And of course we do that by hitting this FOV button down here. We can zoom it in, we can zoom it out, at will. Now this is not actually optically zooming in the sensor. It is simply adjusting the FOV, which is displayed to the pilot. It's very similar to if you've ever played with the FOV settings on a GoPro camera. The lens on that GoPro is not optically zooming in, but it gives the illusion of that by showing less in the field of view that's being displayed to the user. And I like to preset this FOV for all my missiles, so we can go ahead and step through the missiles. See, this one's on Station 2. We can zoom in the FOV. Station 7, zoom in the FOV. Station 3, zoom in the FOV. Step again back to Station 8, and it's already zoomed in as we selected earlier. I very, very rarely, if ever, use Mavericks on targets in DCS world without it zoomed in. So we'll go ahead and take her out of autopilot here. And we'll take her out of auto throttle. And we'll go ahead and turn on back towards our target waypoint. We'll go ahead and take her out of automatic mode so that our target waypoint stays with us in case we overfly it. And since we're rolling in, we'll go ahead and hit our sensor select switch left to put our TDC to our left-hand DDI, denoted by this diamond here, so that we can use our TDC to slew the sensor head of the Maverick. Now, one very, very large change that you'll notice is we cannot just simply uncage and then slew the Maverick around. We have to actually depress TDC down to be able to slew the Maverick, as we can see here. If I do not press TDC down, like right now, I cannot slew the Maverick at all. However, if I depress it, I can of course slew it again. And if our Maverick gets way off bore sight like it is now, we can simply hit cage and uncage button, and it'll bring us right back to bore sight, no problem. So we'll go ahead and roll in on the abandoned airfield here at Cavaletti. We've got our dot labels on to help us out a little bit here. And we'll use our little triangle on our HUD to help us kind of pinpoint the general area we want to use. And we'll depress that TDC, and we'll go ahead and lock up that tank right here. Bring that triangle a little bit further left, and we'll use it to go ahead and lock up this truck and rifle 2. So we'll go around for a second pass for our next 2 missiles. And why don't we go ahead and watch those missiles explode. Awesome, so we got 2 good shacks, and we'll go ahead and gain some altitude and come around for a second pass on the target. So beyond just simply telling the missile, okay, I can slew it with my TDC, depressing TDC down tells the missile, okay, I'm not ready for a lock. I'm currently moving the seeker around to find a target. However, once you release TDC down and stop slewing, it tells the missile, okay, go ahead and lock up the nearest contrast you can find. And that brings us to my next point, is we can change whether or not that missile wants to lock on to a white contrast or a black contrast by simply hitting track white or track black. White will have the white crosshair, black will have the black crosshair. So the black crosshair would be good for going after, say, something that's cold and dark on the ramp of an airport or something like that. That's going to be a little bit colder, maybe dark against the background. So we're 10 nautical miles away from our waypoint 2. We'll go ahead and roll on back in. And you can see that our Station 7 Maverick is already pre-zoomed in, like we set earlier. hold down our TDC. Rifle 3, hold down our TDC. And Rifle 4 on that helicopter. Now, it may seem tedious to hold down that TDC button, and you're thinking, well, what if I have a HOTAS system that doesn't have a hat switch that I can push down? It's no problem. I'm actually using an X56, which does not have a hat switch that I can also simultaneously push down. I have them decoupled, one hat switch being a TDC and a separate button being a TDC down, and it's actually no problem for me. And I actually like this new version of slewing the Maverick, of having to push the TDC down. I find it actually helps me a lot in the way it just works well when you release TDC down and that Maverick is looking for a lock. So, another two good shacks on a helicopter and another tank. And now why don't we go ahead and take a look at cooling your Mavericks down if you start a mission with weight on wheels from the runway, the ramp, or the ramp hot. So stand by and we'll go ahead and take a look at that. Okay guys, so we're back and we find ourselves on the ramp here at Cavaletti, and we'll go ahead and make a quick takeoff, and then we'll take a look at cooling down those Mavericks before we engage our target. So we'll go ahead and push the throttle up and get started. Ooh, a little bit of a crosswind. Hopefully I don't look too bad for a tutorial video. Off the ground, flaps up, gear up. We'll gain some altitude here, and then we'll go over the last bit of the tutorial. Alrighty, so now that we're at a safe altitude, we'll go ahead and go on over to our stores page. We'll go into air-to-ground mode. We'll select our IRMAVs, and that starts the cooling process. And if we go into our Maverick format page, which is the page that displays the IRMAV sensor, we get a timer here. And unlike before, we don't see the view of that sensor while it's cooling down. So that'll cool down onto 0, and then the sensor view will pop up and you'll be ready to go. Alrighty guys, through the magic of video editing, you can see that you didn't have to wait that whole 3 minutes. And bingo, there we go. We've got the IR image up on the screen now, and we're ready to go ahead and rock and roll. So, I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, please give me a like and a subscribe. I would really appreciate that. And as always, fly safe and have fun with the new Mavericks. Thanks a lot guys. We'll see you next time.